All right, so hi everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Sarah Daniels and I am in charge of recruiting and operations here at Inspiring Capital. And today you are tuning into a presentation about the Inspiring Capital MBA Social Impact Fellowship. So thank you for spending the time with us for this next hour. We will be having two IC alums from the program tune in about 40 minutes during that time of Q&A. And so make sure to jot down some questions that you have and we will all put them into the chat box and we'll be able to sort them out between myself and those two alums that are joining us. So I am going to share my screen and then we will get started going through our deck, and so you guys can have a visual as well. Awesome, here we go. So again, thank you guys for being here. We have different students tuning in from all over the nation today. As I mentioned, Yale, Michigan, DC, here up in New York. We're actually based in New York City, and so I'm here in New York City as well. We have Columbia, Denver, Boston, all over North Carolina. I think I said Duke already, but we have students from all over the nation tuning in, and we're very excited to talk about this opportunity and answer all the questions that people might be having. So let's get into it. So you guys have all heard about our program, the Inspiring Capital Fellowship, the MBA Fellowship for Social Impact Opportunities. And so what we're going to be talking about today, a bit of our overview is who Inspiring Capital is, what we call our IC Impact Dashboard, and how we classify different organizations that we work with and the different types of impact that they have on either the environment or on social impact issues. Beyond that, we will talk about the actual fellowship itself. We're going to talk about the types of clients that we have and a week in a life of a IC fellow. Then we're going to move into a little bit of a group interactive time that is a bit of a case study. And so during that time, I will take some interactions either through the phone or if you want to tune in via video. We'd love to have just like an interactive portion. Ooh, and I'm in the dark. Sorry, I'm in a room where the light goes off randomly. It just thinks I'm not here anymore. So that might happen to me. My apologies for that. But as I was saying, we will have a time for then who should apply for the actual program itself, going into our fellows, our alums, where they are now, and then moving into that application and next steps and deadlines. So kicking this off, I'd like to show you a screen about Inspiring Capital. So Inspiring Capital is, this fellowship is in its 7th year, and we are based in New York City. We are a B Corp, and we help connect world-class talent with purpose-driven opportunities and companies, especially in the social impact space and environmental impact spaces. To the left, you'll see our founder, Nell Derek Debevoise. She's the CEO, and she has over 10 years of experience in international business development and also in philanthropy. Nell did a lot of traveling. She saw a lot of the world and went to the London Business School for her MBA. And she realized that these organizations that she wanted to work for that were like mission critical in the social impact space were not using resources or their talent to the best of their abilities. She thought that there was more capacity to connect those with amazing skills, passions, talents with those opportunities to make, I would just say, very impactful, if kind of company shaping, organization shaping decisions and strategic management decisions. And so she created a program, which you guys are here to learn about, to be a fellowship the way that she wished that she had a fellowship, exposing her to the broader range of social impact opportunities with the type of training that she wished that she had throughout her MBA summers and also her MBA program. So going forward, this is a slide about our impact dashboard. So along the impact dashboard, there are 4 sectors along the top. The 4 sectors are the government, the nonprofits, social enterprises, and for-profit corporations that we work with and that we have found that our alumni have embedded themselves into that have some sort of social impact opportunities or just areas that purpose-driven learners and doers, aspire to work inside of. So beyond those sectors along that kind of impact dashboard, there are there are spans of influence. And so we take the UN's SDG goals, which are the national standard now for different types of impact. There's 17 of them down at the bottom of the screen. And we plot them along this impact dashboard when we get to know a company. And so you'll see an example of this later in dealing with some of our clients. But we plot them in order to then map and have a visual of what kind of impact each organization is having in their own unique way. And you'll see that the spans range from just kind of like your job sphere being the smallest, moving into a larger employer kind of impact sphere. Then the reach of the community, and then finally the reach of money and where your dollars can fit in. This is all rooted on a basis of the self and also a basis of friends and family, because these SDGs can also be implemented for yourself, such as health and well-being. And so we believe that this is also a type of impact that individuals have on a daily basis. But again, this impact dashboard is to show you to have like a basis and a baseline visual and understanding of where that impact lies for our clients, for those host companies that we deal with, and for the type of organizations you want to go into in the future. So moving forward with the actual fellowship, we call it the IC MBA fellowship for social impact. These are the dates that our program runs. It is 10 weeks and it runs from June 15th to August 21st in New York City. And the two types of differentiators of our program are underneath training and our approach to consulting. And so in our training model, we build in over 80 plus hours of professional development and training of just exposure to the social impact sector, again, in the government, nonprofits, social enterprises, and for-profit corporations. This looks like a one day a week training day where we have 6+ hours of a host company that is usually not one of our clients will actually host us. So that if that's the NRDC, the UN Global Compact, maybe Feather, which was one of our clients this year, they wanted to host us as well. And a lot of times these hosts get out of this interaction, they get world-class talent, being you guys being fellows, sitting with maybe an issue or a problem that their leaders are facing. And so we're doing kind of a live case study with them for about an hour every training day. This builds into expanding your professional network because you're not only meeting those hosts, you're meeting their HR departments, you're meeting some of their leaders, and on top of that, you're meeting some of our alums. So every single training day has a topic that we curate for the cohort. If the cohort is lacking experience or exposure to nonprofits, we build that in. If the cohort needs extra career kind of trajectory in that social impact space, we build that in. And so there are different topics that we build into those training days, which I will show you some more of on the next slide. So you're meeting, again, those hosts, you're meeting some alumni that are expert speakers actually on that topic matter. So if that's impact investing or the theory of change, design thinking, or strategic philanthropy, we make sure that we have an expert speaker on the topic, and we also make sure that we have, again, some kind of voice to speak to your career path going forward. So you have around 4 to 6 different types of stakeholders that you're meeting in just that training day alone. And then I've talked a lot about exposure, but you do get that exposure to the social sector, those opportunities, those challenges, and those case studies, and where people have landed afterwards. On the second note, under consulting, so we bring in 10 to 12 fellows every summer, and we pair one fellow with one project. And so that project is with one client. And so you are very hands-on. You are the face of Inspiring Capital. You are the deployed consultant. And it is a lot of responsibility. And with a lot of responsibility, as Spider-Man says, I think it's with a lot of wisdom is a lot of responsibility. But we give you a lot of responsibility to be that project manager and to own your project and to own your deliverables afterwards. A way that we set you up for success as a consultant is that Inspiring Capital does the project scoping. And so we do the project scoping with the client with between 1 to 5 hours with an actual leader or a project champion, someone that is for the project that you already have buy-in from. And so we solidify those expectations. We give you context in that scoping. In that scope, and then we also give you outlined deliverables. And so there's usually between 1 to 4 different deliverables that you'll be working on for that summer. So that is something that you can then use all of those materials in some kind of portfolio to show to future employers, or just to prove your consulting experience from this fellowship. I do want to jump back to the actual training and the different topics that we go over. And these are just a few of the different topics that we have gone over this past cohort summer. But again, we do customize it to the cohort's needs and what is voice. And so if there is a specific area where you guys would want to learn more, we take that into consideration and build it into one of those later training days if we can find a robust enough set of alumni hosts and speakers. And so just going through some of these topics, we've touched on impact measurement, earned income strategies, strategic philanthropy, as I mentioned, change management, the theory of change, SDGs in the private sector, the circular economy model. For that one, we had an alumni who's actually over in Amsterdam working with the circular economy in an environmental and energy-based organization. And he actually video called us. And so he got to meet with our alums in that capacity as well. So we do find a way if we, have the option, and a lot of IC alums are eager and happy to share their experiences and to share where they have landed now, and just to give us a scope of what their role looks like. We also touch on impact investing, what business for good means as being a B Corp, and then we had blockchain for social and environmental impact as well. So again, these are just some of the topics that we build into that 80 plus hours of professional development and training. Moving forward, under consulting, again, you are that one consultant for that one project, and that can feel like a lot of responsibility. But on the next slide, I'll go into how we build in supports on a weekly basis in order to alleviate some of that nervousness or feeling like you need to have it all, do it all. So on this slide with consulting, these are some of our clients from the previous cohort summer. So you'll see Campbell's, we worked with their foundation. We worked with them on a shared value initiative. And so their foundation was working with different partnerships and schools up in the New York City area, and also working with their for-profit arm to make sure that there was shared value for their healthy foods initiative across the board. Moving into the Ms. Foundation. The Ms. Foundation is the longest standing gender and equality rights and women's rights foundation in the United States. And they were looking to invest their endowment into different gender lens investing opportunities. So that project was heavily research-based. And it was also, having some kind of implementation recommendations and plans moving into the future that could span over the next, say, 1 to 3 years and moving forward. And so they're a nonprofit here, moving into a social enterprise. Just for an example, Mebel. Mebel is reshaping the way that we think about furniture by using recycled materials to make high-end furniture. And so they are just starting up as a social enterprise, and there's lots of opportunities before them, and they needed a very solid marketing plan to initiate and roll out going forward. And so our fellow worked on a very extensive marketing plan for them this summer. So you're hearing research-based marketing plan, shared value. Those are just some of the projects. We've had some other ones as well that were more operation-based and finance-based. Actually, for another client that's actually not represented here was Leap New York City, and they bring arts into schools and bring arts programs around children. And so they were looking to bring their finance department that was external at the time in-house. And so that was a full-fledged financial model around what this would look like and how this would impact the organization going forward. So this one was heavily finance-based. I've heard a lot of interest around, education-based programs or education-based organizations. And so it is education-based, but this project was heavily around, again, that finance feature. So this, just to name a few. I get some questions on the Goodwill project, so I will speak about that one as well. I do love a good story, and with the Goodwill project, they were looking, the end goal is to bring some of those donated materials that are of higher value and be able to sell them on an e-commerce arm, so being able to sell them online in some capacity. And so with Goodwill, they were looking at, where do we start? Do we start with electronics? Do we start with arts and collectibles? And they ended up starting with shoes. And so with those shoes, they were making an operations model necessarily from top leadership all the way down to the actual shoe sorter of what it would look like on a very tactical level to sort the shoes and then how it would move through the pipeline all the way to that wholesaler or that e-commerce arm. And so they did this around shoes in order to then hopefully replicate this model into electronics or into those collectibles and paintings going forward. And so that is actually being, started up and in the works in the Goodwill that is in New York and New Jersey right now. So that's just touching a bit of the basis. You can see that the projects all vary. And again, they all span and they all fall along that impact dashboard in a government sector, nonprofit, social enterprise, or for-profit corporations. So the needs vary drastically. And on our side, we get the question a lot of how do you pair fellows with actual, like the clients and the projects? And so in our application process, which I'll speak about later, we look for someone's, skills, also their passions, especially their passions and their interest areas. So if you're interested in getting more exposure to a nonprofit, we take that into consideration. If you're interested in a certain kind of justice or rights movement for children, for women, we take that into consideration. Really what, fuels your passion, and then also what skills do you have to complement in order to find this lovely mix that we get on our end. And so we do claim that we have a psychic on our team. And I'm not going to tell you who it is, but we do have a psychic. So don't worry about a thing, because we will pair you to our best ability, since we've known these leaders and these companies for, a long time, 5+ years. So moving past some of our clients, and I can go back and answer some more of those questions moving forward, but I want to show you what a week in the life of an IC fellow looks like. And I don't know if anyone else loves Google Calendar, but I do. So on that very first day, again, we talked about training days. And so you have that 6-hour training day with those host organizations, IC alums, subject matter experts. And you also have a time to get to know your cohort members as well. And then we usually have a happy hour to follow in order to have some kind of bonding time and to feel like you're part of that IC community and to build those relationships, which, can last a lifetime. From Tuesday then to Friday, so 4 days a week, you are actually in your office with your client. We had one fully virtual client, which I'll speak about a bit later, and we had one semi-virtual client. But other than that, if your clients are not virtual, which 80% of them are not, you will be at your client site. And if they are virtual, you will work with us. You can either have the choice to work from home, to work from their different partnership locations, or to work from our co-working space. And so moving into Tuesday, what does this look like when you're actually with your client? And it would typically look like you attending some sorts of meetings. And so going to lots of different meetings with lots of different stakeholders. So you'll see a meeting with maybe a leadership meeting, and then maybe a meeting with your project champion, which is the one who actually was pressing for this project. A lot of times these projects are CEO wish list items, which meant they've just been sitting on the burner for a long time. And, high leadership has been wanting them to have action around them, but just really needed a catalyst or that extra bandwidth to get them started. So your project champion might even be the CFO, if available, or the CEO. If it's not the CEO, though, you will have a direct manager underneath that CEO who, again, is very involved with leadership in the organization to help manage you and be that project manager or that project champion during the summer. And then I also on Tuesday put some other types of stakeholder meetings that I've heard fellows have had. So around that kind of financial team meeting or speaking to a board member, those are just things that have come up in other weeks in the lives of IC fellows. Going back to that Goodwill example, there was lots of different site visits, and with a lot of these program-based organizations, with women and children, after school programs, arts programs, you will actually have a site visit. So on Wednesday, I built in a site visit, maybe to a warehouse or to a school or to a partner's location for that afternoon. And then to follow, this is where that other types of support are built in by IC. We have a call with a mentor at 4:30. So a mentor is one specific IC fellow that is one specific IC alum from a previous year that either had a similar project or had now is in that sector that you're working in for the summer. So if that is a nonprofit in education, then you will have a mentor that either have, again, that similar project or is working in a nonprofit in education. So we make sure to pair specifically that mentor so you have some more exposure and you have someone to bounce ideas off of. They are really there at your disposal, but it's also your initiative to set up calls with them and to utilize them and bring them into your project and give them kind of insight into what you're thinking or what you're stuck on. And then before that, you'll see a call with an IC alum. And so just meaning that other alums in the IC network are also at your disposal. We, on our side, assess what kind of resources you need beyond your mentor, and then we connect you with other IC alums that have relevant experiences, work in a relevant field, or just would be a really good person to network with. And so we make those introductions all summer long, and we add those to your calendars and help you schedule those into your summer. Going into Thursday, again, meeting with that project champion, keeping expectations under wraps between your project champion and yourself is definitely an area that makes a project successful. And so meeting with them frequently, making sure that you're capturing their vision, making sure that you understand those full deliverables, and keeping them up to date is really important. And then you might even host like a think tank or a feedback circle, again, having other stakeholders in the mix. And so if that's those end users or if that's those families or participant or program users from these different organizations, that's what it might fall into, towards the end of your program cycle. And then finally, to end off Thursday, office hours with Nell is scheduled because our Inspiring Capital team has open office hours, specifically our CEO. So you can pick her brain, you can see what kind of experience she has had in these different areas or how she knows these different clients and what she would recommend going forward. So you can schedule office hours with her and our IC team based on your needs for the week. Moving into Friday, I built in an IC weekly debrief. And so we always on our side are helping you project manage and being a sounding board as well. And we do the same thing with the clients once every 2 weeks. And so we check in with them to make sure that they're happy and we can, have a candid conversation on how the program is going. And we do build in something called IC team calls. So this is where it is you, it is your mentor, it is Inspiring Capital, like project manager, and then it also is the client. And so from there, we again help manage those expectations to keep everybody on the same page. And I also built in a catered lunch because when you are in an office, there are perks like that, either happy hours or catered lunches throughout the week. And then finally, having that mentor feedback call. So being very intentional about picking your IC alum, being that mentor, their brain on different deliverables, and then maybe sending out a weekly report to your actual client, which is kind of a best practice of some IC fellows in the past. We do look for someone, which I'll get into some of those skills, but we do look for someone that is very self-directed and that can make their own schedule and help plot some of these things for themselves. We do not make your schedule, but this is kind of what a typical schedule looks like for an IC alum during the week. And you typically work from 9 to 5 and in typical working hours. So going into a client example, and we'll have some interaction here. And so you can get up your chat box, get your chat box ready. And so the chat box. So a little bit of background, this is one of our clients we didn't talk about yet, called Green Our Planet. And Green Our Planet, I'll let you read this little blurb about them, and then I will show you some examples of what they're up to and then the problem that we were faced with this summer. So as you guys are reading, you can see that Green Our Planet is a nonprofit. They actually get their money mainly through donors. And they are helping children learn that STEAM, so STEM with arts, programming in schools. And they also do this through bringing hydroponic gardens and school gardens into, again, those school communities. They have different programs, including nutrition, financial literacy, and conservation education for pre-K to 12th grade in schools. And so that's kind of some cute pictures of the students that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And then moving forward, we did map out what their impact dashboard would look like. So we pulled out some of those SDGs and mapped them to show you their kind of impact that they're having. And so, on a friends and family scale and self kind of section on the bottom, understanding good health and well-being. So starting with the individual with their health and well-being, through that, through those programs, through those educational programs, to teach them how to take care of themselves first and foremost. And then moving into through their actual employer being, focused on that STEM with arts. I always think it's a typo, but it's not, but STEAM education being like a core mission for their organization, which then their community will help prosper kind of that life on land initiative. So being good to the world and caring about, again, that wellness feature, and then moving into, money wherever your dollars go after that. So around building sustainable communities going forward. So beyond the impact dashboard, these are some of the activities that Green Our Planet, I'm just going to mute you. And so that Green Our Planet are dealing with. And so you can take a gander here and look at the different activities that they have been interested in and have gotten involved in throughout their different community. So I'll let you look through and digest this little map of just what's been working well, what kind of engagement has led to what kind of statistics, and then the different types of programs that they lead. And Dana, if you wouldn't just mind just muting your video, I would appreciate that. All right, so after looking over this and seeing all the different types of activities that Green Our Planet is involved in, I am just going to point out what kind of question we were faced with this summer. So the type of question that we were faced with was, and the challenge we were posed with, was how would you streamline Green Our Planet's activities and scale in order to scale and become financially sustainable, provided by those alternative revenue streams. And so if you guys just want to type in the chat box just some ideas, again, I'll go back. Again, we're looking at how to scale based on their activities and become financially sustainable through those alternative revenue streams. Like, what is an option for them to become sustainably, financially sustainable? And so feel free just to jot down some ideas. Nothing is a wrong idea, and we welcome all kinds of recommendations. My chat box has disappeared. Let me just find this chat box really fast. Sorry about this, guys. Oh, there it is. All right. So going into the chat, I'm just seeing what everybody is posting right now. Sorry, my chat box has disappeared. And so if you guys just want to tune in, if you have an idea through, through your actual microphone or through your video, you guys can add some ideas right now. So again, we're looking at different ways that you can streamline some of those activities to scale and become financially sustainable. Any ideas? No takers?
Maybe the hydroponics program and the outdoor gardening program could be combined into one sort of indoor-outdoor gardening program.
Yeah, awesome idea. They definitely have that going for them, and they're definitely experts on it. It's a good idea. We have one from Julia. I actually found our chat. It came up again. They said to form a young professionals group for fundraising and volunteers. Great, and setting the curriculum available for sale. So maybe to who, just if you wanted to elaborate, Julia. And then also Lena tuned in through the chat box, and she said that you can have teacher training workshops be a part of the financial literacy so that you can kill two birds with one stone. Good idea as well. Saving some, bandwidth there. Anyone else have any other ideas? Again, they have lots of different activities going on, and we're looking for ways that they can become more financially sustainable versus leaning on those donor dollars. Oh, here's one from Ryan. So maybe research similar activities and find out which would be most likely for people to pay for and be interested in to focus on. Good idea. I know they are doing lots of different programs. So which one is actually working the best? Which one is viable? Good. So thank you guys for some ideas. If you guys want to drum roll, I'll drum roll. So the recommendation that we had for them this summer, before that, Hassab, he ended up saying to sell produce from garden programs in farmers markets or back to the schools in the cafeteria. Yes, definitely make it cyclic. Oh, and we have one from Molly. They could create a vegetable garden for students to learn about nutrition and sell vegetables. Definitely. Why not? You're already making it. These are all really good ideas. Oh, we have some more. Everybody's getting in. Okay, so we have one from Ethan saying community subscriptions for produce boxes to connect with communities to schools. Agreed. I mean, they already have all of that food, they're producing all of that food and they're trying to get it out now to the public. And so we're definitely on the right track. And I appreciate all the ways that you guys are tuning into this. Awesome. Thank you guys. Oh, we have one. Try and leverage corporate partnerships for farmers markets or any of the other programs. You guys are getting really warm. So I'll drum roll again. So the big reveal is that they ended up working with and leveraging their training programs in order to offer corporations kind of a buy one, get one deal. And so they said, why don't we already have all these different training programs, we already know how to do hydroponic gardens and kind of community gardens. So why don't not offer this to those different stakeholders that have external revenue and surplus revenue to share and offer it in a fact that they are then sponsoring one of the schools in their community. So they're buying their own garden, having that surplus, and then also supporting and sponsoring a different community school to have a hydroponic garden and these types of programs. So that is something that they built out a model for and use their impact metrics and data to support those recommendations going forward. So thank you guys for humoring me and participating. Moving forward, I just want to get to a couple more slides and before we open it up for 20 minutes of Q&A, because I can see that some of our alums are joining in and I want to make sure that you have enough time with them. But we're just going in right now to what makes a successful IC fellow. So what kind of skills are we looking for? The first skill is that comfort with ambiguity. So we're looking for someone who knows that this nonprofit, even for profit with a social impact mission or a social impact arm space can be a bit gray. So if you have worked in a nonprofit, you just know that sometimes they just don't have all the answers. It's not as fleshed out as it needs to be, and you are working in like an unknown sphere. So making sure that you're curious and flexible and adaptable and also having a really good attitude where, if we got stranded together, you and me, or someone from the IC team in an airport for 12 hours, would you be a pleasure to be around? Would you be positive? How would you handle that? Again, comfort with ambiguity. It's like not knowing when you're supposed to go on your next plane, but knowing that you will arrive there and trying to think strategically throughout the whole process. And so we definitely look for that. Of course, we look for the business skills and we'd love to know your background to best pair you. But comfort with ambiguity is something that we really value here at Inspiring Capital. Moving forward, so where are they now? Some of these alums, and I'll have our alums speak in just a minute too. But where are these alums now? As I mentioned with that impact dashboard, our alums have implanted themselves throughout the government, nonprofit sectors, social enterprises, and for-profit corporations. So here is just a list, just a short list of some of the examples of where some of our alums have been plugged into. So you'll see like the Department of Education, different kind of impact investing firms, Mebel, which is again one of our clients and also social enterprise. They ended up hiring their IC fellow directly to be their COO. Their fellow from 2018. And so we got to work alongside Mebel 2 years in a row and have a team of 2 IC, now an alum and a fellow working together for 2019, which was really exciting. And then just a variety of consulting and for-profit corporations. And then here's just another slide going through their actual job titles and what kind of roles that they fit into in some of these companies as well. Great. And going forward, if you guys want to email me, here is my email, and the application process, just going quickly over that as well so we can get to that time of Q&A and I can respect everyone's time again. So in the application process, it is a 4-step application. So the first one is a short survey, takes about 10 minutes and has some cover letter questions. We also collect your resume at that point, and that is due December 15th by midnight. The second round then is a recorded video interview where you record yourself answering some questions for us to then review on our side. The third is a homework assignment and a phone interview with us. And so at that point, we want to learn, about those skills and interests and areas that you want to grow in or have exposure to. And then finally, that fourth round is that group interview and live case study. And so that is in mid-February. And 40% of fellows actually do, or candidates, they actually come to our New York City location and they'll have it in person. And the other 60% we do offer virtual options as well. So that's our 4-step process. And we really do view this as a year-long engagement with us. So it starts with that fellowship. It goes into inviting you to all of the different events that we host here in New York City. Every quarter, we have 1 to 2 events. This last event was around Business for Good and B Corps. Moving into that fall afterwards, after your program, is that integration support. So having cohort meetings virtually with your cohort from the summer and learning about just different perspectives or changes in mentality or how you assess going into your second year and helping you integrate some of those learnings. You also always have access to that alumni network because you are now an alumni, and we can help you with interview coaching when finding a full-time role. Again, if that comes through, an alumni connection, so be it. But if you choose something else, we are very happy that you found impact in that area that you're pursuing. And then finally, just being life as an alum. We love to leverage our alums in future years and invite them into what we're doing and keep everybody up to date on how Inspiring Capital is doing as well. So at this time, I do want to open it up to a time of Q&A. And so we have a chat box here. And if you guys could just either, I would say, type your questions into the chat box. And then some of our alums will take it away. We have Destiny Davis on the line and we have Mohit Gupta. And so I'll have Destiny and Mohit introduce themselves briefly, talk about their what school they're from, what they worked on for Inspiring Capital's project this summer. And then we will get into some questions and answers. So Destiny, if you want to take it away, and then Mohit, you can go after. So Destiny, I can't hear you. I think you're muted. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Destiny Davis. I am a joint master's in social work and MBA. Third year at Washington University in St. Louis. I had the opportunity to work as a fellow this past summer with Inspiring Capital. It was an amazing experience. So I'm excited to be here and excited to answer you all's questions.
Great. And Destiny, do you want to speak about the project that you were on as well, just briefly?
Yes. So I actually consulted, my client was
Oh, Destiny, we lost you.
different programs, over 700 employees. And I basically worked with their operations team to kind of streamline some of their data management processes, as well as worked on 2 specific programs to kind of identify like their evaluation metrics in order to basically illustrate like what they wanted their impact to be for those particular programs. So basically a project around evaluation and data. There we go.
And if you guys missed that, she worked with Brooklyn Community Services. You kind of cut out for a second.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. And Mohit, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone where you're from, what you're studying, and what project you had for the summer?
Okay, so hello guys. I'm Mohit Gupta. I'm a second year at Georgetown University McDonough School of Business. I was a recent IC fellow with Destiny, so batch of 2019. We really enjoyed in our summer. It was a 12-week project with 10 weeks with your client and 1 week of orientation. My project was with Feather. It's a furniture rental startup based out of New York. And it was a mix of both commercial strategy and social impact, where they were trying to replace all the IKEA type furniture that people throw away in landfills to more sustainable furniture, durable furniture, which can beautify your homes and you can rent it at a lower cost. So the project was pretty interesting with the confluence of both social sustainability as well as finance, and really enjoyed doing some financial modeling and also learning about various diverse topics about social impact, be it impact investing, impact measurement, and I'm sure Sarah has been talking about all of that to you guys during your presentation. Happy to take any questions going further.
Awesome. So if you guys want to type in your questions into the chat box, if it's to Destiny or Mohit, just put a D, to D or to M so that they know, and I will help read those off to them. Anybody got questions, or did I do a fantastic job? Oh, here's one. So this one is, either of you can take it, but were you looking at any other internship opportunities for the summer? And if so, what made you decide to go with Inspiring Capital Fellowship? Good question.
You want to take that, Mohit, or you want me to?
Yeah, I can take that because this was pretty much the decision that I made in the last month. Like it was in around April, May, when I was searching for a consulting role. I was focused on taking a consulting job going in my internship. And what attracted me with this particular fellowship was that it was a good confluence between working for a consulting project as well as thinking about a crash course for social impact. And I was like, there was an anticipation in me where I wanted to have both of these things together. And I would praise the IC team. They took care of my needs, and they really heard about what I really wanted from my project and where I was good at. So I got the project in the operations field, and also went into this internship with a purpose that I really wanted to contribute as a consultant as well as a social impact fellow.
Awesome, thanks, Mohit. Destiny, do you want to take this next one?
Yeah, sure. What's the next one? What is it?
So it says, do you have a favorite training day seminar? And if so, what is it and why was it so impactful?
Ooh, that's a tough one. We had some really good seminars. We did. I don't know. This was one of my favorites, I can say, was working with the Rockefeller Foundation and their impact investing team. So we were able to basically do a crash course in basically impact investing, being able to look at their portfolio and kind of see like how they actually choose how they choose their investments, and understanding that whole process, which was something that I had never been accustomed to, especially from that particular lens. And just being at the Rockefeller Foundation and understanding like what they do, the great work that they've done previously was just an amazing experience. So yeah, that's the first one that comes to mind. Was there a second part of that question?
No, I was just like, why was it so impactful? But I think you answered that as well.
Yeah.
Great. We have a few more questions coming in now. So there's a question I can take from Eric. Wow, we have so many questions now. So the first one is, how often does the IC fellowship lead to a full-time offer? And so we've been asked this a lot. People are really worried about full-time offers, and we view this as exposure. If you are interested in a specific area or industry, so that can look like nonprofits, but they can be around education, they could be around gender, they can be around children, they can be around families, they can be around programs. And so I think the exposure to this space is the most important kind of aspect, where you will be connected with lots of IC alums. Again, you'll meet all those different host companies and the client companies across the board. Also the different IC alums at some of the events that we have. And of the different organizations, typically a client will want you to keep working or want you back, but it's actually up to the IC member if they would like to keep working with them. We did have a few different requests for continuation of this work from the summer, but you guys are again going back to your second year in your MBA, and so that was not taken up on by that IC alum. And so we don't have a statistic around it. Sim is the one who from Mebel in 2018 accepted to become their COO in 2019. She did that, on her own accord, and she's one of the rare cases that it was mutual on both sides. I think there is a lot of, again, requests for extra work, but it is up to you, just some basic exposure you got of where you would want to land. So that is for Eric's question. Going forward, there's a question about what specific skills were required for success on your role as an IC fellow. Either of you guys want to take that one?
Yeah, I can take that. So I wouldn't say that there are any specific skills as to like specific for this particular internship. It really depends upon, like, you can leverage your background very much if you want to continue doing what you want to do. That is one. Second, if you really want to transition into a different field, like the internship is open for you to select whichever background you want to you want to select. And again, as I said before, the IC team takes care of what you really want to do from your internship. So they really give you one sheet where they have everything. You have to fill out everything, like which area you like the most. Is it education? Is it climate change? Is it gender equality? So all of these areas are there, and they match you with your project perfectly. So I feel that now when I'm out of this program, and when I think about it going back, I don't see that there was any particular skill that I specifically learned. Having said that, I think MBA gives you enough resources, and there are enough courses that you do on strategy, on consulting frameworks, on finances, like basic finances. That is something that you need to brush up on, and you will use those resources while you're doing your project with IC.
Awesome, thanks Mohit. We have one of, for both, did you work on site the entire time? If so, what was the process of moving to New York City like for the summer?
Yeah, I can take that. So I kind of got lucky in my situation because my client actually was like around the corner from me. My client was in downtown Brooklyn and I was living in downtown Brooklyn, not normal. But yes, I had a little flexibility. So some days I was in the office, some days I was not in the office. And I think that just really depends on your client and understanding what that flexibility actually looks like. And then of course on Mondays I was with my IC team and doing our Monday trainings. So it really just depends on the agreement and kind of the situation you have with your client. So that may potentially vary. As far as moving out to New York, of course, New York can be a very, very overwhelming city. But the process to actually moving was not that bad. I was able to find a great place to live with a roommate. And if you all need resources around that, I'm pretty sure Sarah can give you all a couple of recommendations, a couple of different areas or strategies and kind of getting acclimated to New York as well as places to live. But yeah, it wasn't a hard process at all. And then like once you get connected with, Inspiring Capital, once you're there, of course, you know people and you're able to kind of expand your network. So I had a great summer. It was a great opportunity.
Awesome, thanks Destiny. We have a question for both. Did your experience in the IC fellowship change your sense of what you want to do after you graduate? If so, how?
Well, you want to take that one?
Yeah. Yeah, you can take that if you want.
Okay. So for me, my situation was a little bit different just because I'm a joint degree, so social work and business. So I knew going in Inspiring Capital, I wanted to do social impact consulting. After the experience, I still agreed I wanted to do social impact consulting. However, the whole experience this summer opened up my world to other opportunities of what business for good actually looks like in a more for-profit, in a larger company. So when going to IBM, going to Salesforce and having those opportunities, you see so much out there and you see how basically these companies are, building these products, having these initiatives that are business for good. And so kind of understanding that balance between the two and understanding like you can work at a regular firm, but still, have some piece of social impact entity to it. So still considering social impact consulting as well, but also potentially like corporate social responsibility, just because of all the other exposure that I had this summer, which opened my world up. So yeah.
Great, Mohit, do you have anything to add on that question?
Yeah, so the only thing that I would like to add here was that I really focused on how to find purpose in whatever I do. So this internship was really instrumental in giving me that idea that whatever work or whatever profile I'm going for, I should really see that there is some purpose attached to it. So that is one additional thing that I always look for when I'm trying to find a new opportunity post MBA.
Awesome, thanks guys. We have a question too of having passed through the program, what do you know now that you wish you had known before you started? Besides your client, guys. Everybody wants to know their client, but we train IC fellows to be comfortable with ambiguity and that we reveal clients during our orientation week. And so that is something that, again, we're training you guys in all summer long.
Having known what I wish I knew before I started, I I think one thing that was really stressed and challenged throughout the entire summer was the idea of being flexible. You know, everybody says, oh, you know, I'm adaptable and flexible, but what does that actually really mean? And I think going into an organization to where you're working on a project for them, you got to think of like organizational culture and how you're able to adapt with that. So I think just being more open-minded about being flexible and adaptable and understanding that your project may potentially change, you know, halfway through, depending on what the client wants. So I think being more focused on how you can add value, not necessarily how being attached to the actual project, you know, that would be my tip.
Just to clarify on that too, typically with the projects, because they are scoped and because we have buy-in beforehand, those deliverables are typically set. In some rare cases, we do have to have like a reconvening with the client and with the fellow on those kind of team calls to reset, you know, if there's a fire or ways that they can add more value since you are that extra bandwidth. And so again, being flexible, and to Destiny's point, it can change if it needs to change, but it is less likely than more likely to change.
Yeah, that is true.
Great. And so I have there was a question for me. Will the partners be the same as last year? And have you worked with a social impact startup, or are we planning to? The partners will not all be the same as last year. We will have different clients. And so not maybe a full turnover. There is some speak of some clients staying on or needing help in a different capacity this summer. But we're actually starting to reach out to them and vet those different projects now. And so that is to be determined. But again, we do all of the project matching. So don't worry about us being a psychic and us kind of getting those project scopes ready for you guys. But it is to be determined, and just depending on the different needs of where all these organizations are, and you know where their teams are, or if they need help implementing. Sometimes there are some like talent development or professional development offerings that we do B2B, and so those are also options to them, just depending on where those organizations are at. And then working with social impact startups, we typically aim towards that social enterprise more than social impact startups, but that's just been our previous case. And so I don't think we're opposed to it, but there is even more ambiguity in a startup and there can be less structure. And so I think we do look for something that is a bit more stable and that can be rolled out over 3 to 5 years versus maybe them not making it past, you know, the next 2 years or something. So going into Destiny, you have a question. How has your social work degree and classes impacted your experience as a fellow? Destiny, I think you might have froze. Oh, Destiny, are you still there? Yeah, did you get the question?
No, what was the question? I'm sorry.
It's okay. Your question was, how has your social work degree and classes impacted your experience as a fellow?
It added a lot of value. So it just so happens that my client happened to be a nonprofit, and I understand how me to be able to, you know, have that language of understanding with my particular client.
Oh no, Destiny, you are freezing.
Added value. It definitely served its purpose. And I was also
We'll wait until Destiny starts talking.
Am I frozen?
Yeah, you're frozen. It's okay. Destiny, if you want to help us by putting your email into the chat box, and if they have like specific emails or questions for you, they can email you to get that answer. I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
But Mohit, maybe you can take this question. So if you had the opportunity, oh, here it is. So if you had the opportunity to do anything at all during your 10-week program, what would that be? Oh, to change anything at all. So if you had anything to change during your program.
Well, I would start with the client thing, but you know that's one thing that we are trained to be ambiguous, like to deal with ambiguity. So I'll keep that point aside. Another thing that I would like to change. Wow. Okay, so there is one mentorship program that I really liked. And this is something that IC started only 1 year ago. What they do is like you have one mentor who is an IC alum who gets attached with you for your project. So I would really want to at least get connected with that IC alum at least during our orientation week, so
Okay.
that we would have that 3-4 days of uh, discussion, like what was their experience. They can explain about their experience, and that would really help me to get an idea about what my project can be. I know it is all to take care of the secrecy part, like you're not supposed to know your project before, but that was one thing that I found really impactful, because knowing my mentor right from the starting really helped me to get on track with my project. It really helped me to think about all the pluses and minuses that I could vary on while doing my project, and I got that constant feedback that I really require personally during while doing my projects. So that was something that I really wanted to do from the starting of the orientation week.
Yeah, and you
Other
probably
than
got
that,
connected with them the following week, so it wasn't that
right.
far, but during orientation week, we'll definitely take that under consideration. We have a question here. What do you think helped make your application strong, and what was the interview process like?
I could take I could take that question. Hopefully you all can hear me. So as far as like the application and making it strong and putting your best foot forward, I know personally, like, this is an opportunity to basically dive deep into a new world of like social impact and how you can basically contribute to that. So I think as far as your application, just illustrating how your willingness to dive deep into that world, not necessarily having it all figured out of, this is exactly what I want to do, but it's like, this is something that I'm possibly interested in, and as well as being authentic in your approach, I think is very, very important. And then helping to illustrate your skill set. I don't remember what questions you all particularly asked on the application, so I can't necessarily speak to that right now. But yeah, as far as the interview process, it wasn't too strenuous. I know Sarah kind of went over it. You do a video call one way, video interview, and then you basically create a deliverable to be able to show your creativity a little bit, as well as kind of illustrate your strategic thinking processes. And then there's a group interview you're with about 7 other people. And you basically do a case and kind of walk through a couple of things and kind of get your feedback on a couple of different answers. So the interview process, it wasn't very strenuous. I would just, like Mohit said, brush up on a little bit of your skill set that you've learned in your business classes, especially around like strategy. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I would like to add one thing to that. In terms of application, when I remember my time when I was doing that video or writing my write-up for Inspiring Capital, I was focusing on the stories that I had from my previous work. So I was really close to education, and I did a couple of projects in my previous work. And I used to think about my decisions, or I used to think about what my team leader who was with me guiding us during our previous CSR projects would think when I got that question from IC. So to give you an idea, like really think about your stories, that really focus on what you have done in the past and what you want from this internship. So why do you want to do this fellowship is the most basic question, and you should have a good answer for that. And second thing is focus on the group interviews, because there are cases where if the whole group is good, then it gets selected as a whole. So I know there's a lot of there's a lot of things which go on every year, but I know about 1 year where this happened, where one group got selected completely. So that was pretty interesting.
Awesome. And Destiny, while we have you, if you want to try that question again of how has your social work degree in classes impacted your experience as a fellow, that might be great.
Yes. So let's rewind. So my social work classes, it just so happened that my client was a nonprofit. So I was able to leverage my social work classes a lot because I understood how nonprofits work. I understood basically how the grant side, the evaluation side, as well as like how they run their programs. So when it came to the language, I was able to leverage that as well as leverage, the business side of things as well. So it served me well. It was a great opportunity. And then I was also able to help my other IC colleagues with their, a little bit with their projects too, just helping them to understand like how nonprofits works, what they should possibly be thinking about in regards to their project. So yeah, it served me well. It was a great opportunity, a great match between the two.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So we are a little bit past 7, but let's take one more question and then let's wrap it up. But thank you guys so much again. If you guys are tuning off, I thank you guys so much for being here. And our final question is, what are some best practices for keeping perspective on the work and the experience as a fellow?
Yeah,
Keep a good perspective on your project.
Yeah, go ahead, Mohit. I'll take it after.
Yeah, so I can say that in a word, like to bundle it up, what helped me to keep perspective at my like as a fellow was a lot of communication. I think that is one key thing which helps you to be on toes whenever you are working. You have a lot of interactions during this experience, because on every Monday you're doing a project, you're going to a new company to learn something new about what they are doing. So that is a different level of communication where you are an audience. And then for the next 4 days, you switch the roles where you become a consultant and you try to use everything that you learned on that Monday in that week in your own project. So trying to absorb everything from the learnings that the IC training day gives you, and then trying to communicate with your client, with your mentor, with your stakeholders, whoever they are in your project, gives a lot of input to you, gives a lot of perspective to your work, and helps you to develop while doing this process week 1 and week 2 and till the week 10. So I think when I rewind back and I think about my experience, I think there was a lot of communication which happened, which really helped me to grow as I was doing the project.
Yeah, that's good, Mohit. And I would also add, I think it's just important to keep focus of what you actually want out of this entire experience. I'm not, you're probably not going to be from New York. Like, it's going to be a new setting. Like, everything's going to be new. And so one thing that I focused on while I was there was expanding my network. That's something that I really, really wanted to do. And so I was making sure to follow up with everybody that I met on our Monday trainings, and making sure that I communicate, like Mohit said, communicated with my client, and communicated with, everybody that I was meeting while I was out there. So I would definitely say keep focus of like what you want this experience to be, and make sure that is translated all the way through your summer. But I would definitely have to agree, communication is going to be very important in this, because you're one consultant and with one client. So it's really, really up to you. You have a lot on your plate, but it's manageable. It is. So.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Destiny and Mohit, for tuning in and being our guest speakers. Thanks to everybody that was on this call and on this video call today. If you guys have any questions, I will actually send out, if that's okay, Destiny, Mohit, I'll send out your emails to this group and they can reach out to you individually. So I'll do that on my side. If you have any additional questions or you want to hear about other projects in specific on a specific client, or maybe someone that was on like a for-profit larger corporation, just let me know and we can connect you to other IC alums as well. But thanks again for being here. I hope that this webinar was really helpful, and we look forward to seeing all of your applications come in. All right, bye guys. Have a great night.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye. Thanks,
All the
guys.
best, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.